Hello, everyone. Good late night in Singapore. It's like 10 p.m. right now, and we are hoping that you'll be joining us for this special edition of Live with Red Dot Diva. It's at this very odd hour because I have first time uh, creators from Canada, and this is going to be a very interesting topic on their indie comics. And for those who are watching in and who are not familiar with me, I'm Red Dot Diva. I'm based in Singapore, and I blog about pop culture stuff like entertainment and comics and movies, and as well as lifestyle events that are in Singapore. And I started this live stream back last year during the pandemic when I was consuming a lot of entertainment news, and especially like comics and creators that are focused or highlighted in the news were mainly from the Western media. So I felt that it was time that we had a little niche of for our own Southeast Asian creators, a regional kind of corner for us to highlight creators that we know. I know so many of them around this region who hardly get a peep of mention in blogs and in podcasts and in entertainment news. So this is how it evolves, and I'm so happy to be able to expand this to involve other creators from other parts of the world as well. This is a very unique chance for me to talk to creators from Canada, and so now I'm going to put all of them on screen. The creators of Damn Cursed Children. Hello, guys. Welcome.
Hey, hello. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, sure. Maybe you could introduce yourself, maybe starting from Howard, and then Josh, and then Robin.
Sure. Hi, I'm Howard. I'm one of the co-creators, co-writers of Damn Cursed Children. And that's one of the things I do is comic books. Other stuff I do is creative development as a strategist. So I help create content for different medias, from mobile games to toys to animation to right now working with Nat Geo Asia on something I can't talk about too much, but that's obviously more factual content. That's basically what I do in a nutshell. And off to Josh.
This is Josh. I'm the other co-writer of Damn Cursed Children, checking in from Ottawa, Ontario.
And Robin?
Hi, I'm Robin. I'm the artist for this comic, and I'm from Singapore. Yeah.
Yay!
I work as a graphic designer and illustrator, and then I do comics during my free time.
Right. How do you guys get to know each other and start this project?
That's a great question. Robin, definitely correct me if I'm wrong, because that was a long time ago. I was working on a book called After the Cape with Image Comics, and I was doing work. I was looking at volume 2, and I was looking for an artist, and I posted ads on Pencil Jack, DeviantArt, and Digital Webbing, if I'm right.
Digital Webbing.
There you go. So Robin was one of the fantastic artists who replied, "It's like, this is my art. What do you think?" I'm like, "Holy shit, that's great!" So I sent it to the publisher, and I was like, "So what do you think of this guy?" They're like, "That's great." I'm like, "Good." And we were like trying to figure out his schedule, and then I know that some stuff got mucked up, because in comic books nothing is really straightforward. So by the time I got the actual real schedule and I passed it off to Robin, I think you were busy having kids, your first one, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I told the Image, like, he can't do it because he's having children, and they asked why, and I was like, I did the same thing when I first greenlit the first miniseries for After the Cape. I had my first kid, and then when the second one happened, I was going to have my second kid. My wife was pregnant. I was like, I have to do this really fast, or I'll be murdered in my sleep. So, Robin bowed out, but I kept in contact with him, and I actually met him one time, face to face with his wife when they were visiting Hong Kong, and I was in Hong Kong at that time. So I got to meet him in the real, which was like very seldom when you work with people from different parts of the world, where you get to see them like physically in the real. So that was really cool to hang out with them. for a bit, so I got to hear his voice. So unlike Josh, I actually, when Robin emails, I can hear his voice. I know what it sounds like and has intonations and stuff. But Josh is like, is he angry? I'm like, no, that's how he talks. It's fine. He's not angry. He's just telling you how he feels. It's not he's angry. Don't worry about it. So it's been very interesting. For me and Josh, wow, that was back. I keep screwing up the years, but is that 07?
I believe. Yeah, I went to San Diego Comic-Con 2 years in a row, and my mind is a blur this past couple of years, so it's gotten worse now. But yeah, around 2007, I was going because I did a short film, and in the very 11th hour, they asked if I could come and introduce it. And for me, as you know, a lifelong geek, that was great to get a free pass to San Diego, but I didn't have anywhere to stay or anything like that. So I have a friend who Howard knows as well, named Tom Fowler. I later learned that Howard only knew Tom for not very long at that point. I knew him from high school. Tom, in the years since, has drawn everything from Deadpool to Green Arrow to Star Wars to Sandman books. He's done everything. But so I was crashing at Tom's hotel condo, and Howard ended up having to do the same thing because of chain of events leading for Howard needing a roof over his head at San Diego. And so that's where we met. And the funny thing is that by wild happenstance of the millions of comics that come out every month, I had Howard's After the Cape comic in my backpack. Like, I just read it. So when I met him, I was like, I just read your comic half an hour ago. So it's a good meet cute for us that we met at San Diego Comic-Con, which is the most geeky place on earth. And
yeah, absolutely.
So that's how we met.
But it was weird because I met Tom for a day, not even like a full day, half a day at San Diego, because Attila Artojani, he was staying with Tom as well. I met Attila a few days ago at an event in Toronto. So when I bumped him on the street, they were asking me why am I walking around at this ungodly hour at night. They're like, oh, because the hotel room that I was sharing with strangers became from 5 to 20. So yeah. So Tom was nice. He's like, we have space from a condo. Come stay with. I'm like, yes, a bedroom. That's a walk-in closet. That's your room. Shit, really? Because there's a sofa I can sleep on. No, that's for Josh. And that's the one that's like, F Josh. Who the hell is Josh? Is he here today? It's like, no, he's coming later. I'm like, why can't I sleep on it now? But I wasn't allowed to sleep on the sofa for that first night that Josh didn't show up. But then when Josh showed up, I was kind of like, that's the reason why I'm not sleeping on the sofa and I'm sleeping in a walk-in closet. But then I met Josh, as he mentioned. I was like, when he grabbed my comic, I was like, damn it, I can't hate you now.
Yeah.
You bought my comic. Damn it.
So basically, Howard is the main point because Howard met Robin and Howard met Josh, but Josh hasn't met Robin yet in real life.
No, this is his first time.
Well, it's a great example that, I mean, it's been hard in these last year and a half or whatever it's been, but
yeah,
especially for comics, like, if you're interested in getting into comics, leaving the house to go to comic conventions is a great thing to do because nepotism is a real thing. And when you have friends working on comics and when you have stories to tell and you tell one to a friend, or you have a friend who's an artist or a friend who's a letterer, that's how these groups get together. And so that's something that is very evident on this book, where it's like, Howard bumped into somebody who is a publisher after years of in the trenches of trying to get this done. Oh, yeah. But if Howard hadn't have been at that Comic-Con that night, we might not be here right now. It's a lot of skill, but a lot of luck of the draw with that kind of stuff. So it's a good example of don't be afraid to get out there and meet some people, because that's how you get comic books done, especially comic books.
Yeah. I mean, I want to talk about the comic and about the start of it, but since you were talking about, us getting out there during the good days of the pre-pandemic, doing conventions and meeting people. So how do you cope now that, movement is being restricted, travel is being restricted? Is there, was there a way that you coped with that or connected with someone else in a different way?
Well, I think like this actually a lot. I've done more video chats than I've ever thought I would ever do in my lifetime. I'm a little longer in the tooth. I was there when ICQ was around, and then and then when holy poop! I just brain farted the name. The very first video conferencing, which I forgot the name of it just now because I haven't used it forever. That changed business as we know it, and because of that, people loved and hated Skype. That's right, it's called Skype. So when Skype came about, that's when it started. People didn't realize that, but everybody hated Skype because of the connection issues and internet was bad. It was really horrible back in the day. But now, because internet's a lot better and faster, and people have like laptops that actually have pretty good technology in it, a good processing chip in it, we're able to do this. So, like right now, we're having a conversation across the planet in real time. And I can see people, and they're not, there's no jitter. No one's digitizing everything in front of me, so that's really good. And the other part is things like documentation sharing in real time. Like when I work with Josh, when we script, we work in real time a lot of the moments. Not because we're though we're in the same part of the planet and in the same time zone, we don't necessarily have to be. So I can work on the same, like for example, Google Docs. It's not the only application where we could do that. With Robin, we email him because of the time zone. We don't expect him to be up at the same time as we do. So we make sure that we have all our notes streamed down so that these are the most important things that Robin needs to know from what we just did, and then we wait for his response. So it was never the quick interchange like this with Robin. It was sort of like, this is everything. This is our shopping list of things that we think that should happen or not happen, and he'll reply the same way. So we got in a way, we got more things done that way. So we didn't end up hanging out and just talking about bullshit. so at that part of the production, it went really quick. The writing took a little bit longer because we sort of went off on a tangent here and there sometimes, but it worked out perfectly that way though for us. So I think if people who have seen Damn Care Australia, you can see the amazing, fantastic art, and it's crazy that we didn't do this with Robin, like doing face to face and talking about scenes and stuff. It was just he was just turning pages, and Josh would be like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, "Yep." Damn it, he would have been amazing in there. But that's how it worked out. So it was sort of like serendipity that what we wrote on the page, Robin was able to translate and then make it his own perfectly. And it was like very few times where we actually had needed some changes. It was more, it wasn't stylistically or anything like that. It was more of like a story point when we needed a change to be added. So this is the most happiest production I've been on in the comic books, and I just jinxed it for myself forever. But I've been in really horrible ones where I'm like pulling hair out of my head every half day. So this was been a blessing for me personally.
Right, about the Damn Cursed Children. I mean, I do like horror, but I'm not like a big fan of horror. But I do enjoy horror stories, and really, this Damn Cursed Children is like my own personal nightmare because I'm not a mother and I have very little maternal instincts, and toddlers do scare me in real life, so even if they are not, this way. So when I was reading, it's like, they are creepy. Well, they're not sick, they're already creepy. So I was really interested to know, how did you come across, focusing on toddlers being the monsters rather than the usual tropes of something alien or something monstrous or supernatural, or an adult zombie, things like this.
Josh can start that story off.
Sure. Well, so the true to life answer is that, stories, creativity comes from weird places, and sometimes just like a weird something will get in your brain. So this was years back, and I was purely talking with Howard to try to ride his coattails to get a free pass into a comic convention, and to hang out with him because he's my friend. But I was just going to be his booth babe, just to go and get him snacks and guard his table when he had to go to the washroom and stuff like that. And he was really sick. And the last time I had talked to him was maybe 3 months before that, and he was really sick.
Oh.
And I was like, "Are you still sick?" And I know from just any kid, when you go through school, that if someone in your class gets sick, or if my mom worked in daycare, so if one kid gets sick, everyone gets sick. So I know kids are horrible germ carrying monsters. And he said he was still sick. And I just happened to say, those damn cursed children got you sick again. And a light bulb went over both of our heads, and we kind of laughed about it. And Howard said, "Oh, that would be a really good idea for a comic." And I said, and because he is the full-time writer, I was like, "You could have it. Go ahead." And he was really busy, and he said, "You should do something up." So I ended up putting together kind of like a pitch and gave it to Howard. And then he and I, over a long period of time, sculpted it into like an actual script. But so that's the real world answer. And then from the creativity answer, I just think kids have always been, you look at the history of horror movies and horror stories, whether it's something like Pet Sematary or Night of the Living Dead or Children of the Corn or Village of the Damned, there's a long history of creepy children in stories. So we kind of took that, mixed it with some George Romero, mixed it with some, Lord of the Flies, and that's kind of where our monsters come from. I always kind of jokingly, like a nerd saying that Frankenstein's monster can't be called Frankenstein. I'm like, our little monsters aren't zombies, despite everyone calling them zombies, because they're not undead. They're not crawling out of graves. You don't got to shoot them in the head. It's just like it happened and we don't know why. So they're that kind of monster. But I think that the short of it is just kids are creepy, and it's a new twist to have a bunch of 3-foot tall monsters coming at you instead of a bunch of grown-up sized monsters coming at you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna like lead into some. I'm gonna steal sometimes some moments on this to let everybody know that I'm gonna be asking both Josh and I be asking you, Robin, some questions that have been bothering us for a long ass time about this stuff. But if I'm right, I might correct me if I'm wrong. Your kids are about what 3, 4, 3, 5, 3 or 6 around that time.
My elder one is 10.
10 years old. Okay.
Yeah,
and
the younger one is 5.
So you used basically them as reference for all of this. No,
not really.
Okay, because that was like he has kids, so he's references at home. That's great, but that was one of them.
Well, Howard and Robin are both parents. I'm not, and there was a few times during the script where Howard, as a parent, or when you're doing horror, sometimes you just got to go all in. And there was a few times where Howard was like, "I think this might be going too far." And for better or for worse, I'm the kind of horror fan who's like, "No, more." And I think it worked out fine, but it is that perspective, because it's that, not to make light of it at all, but I think what took us so long to get this book done is that in the real world, not to make a joke of it, but a lot of bad things have happened around kids, in schools, with acts of violence and stuff. And so I think that might have been a hesitation of certain publishers. Howard has said before to me that like XYZ publishers said, "This is great. I can't wait to read it, but we're not going to do it."
Yeah.
So it is a touchy subject, of course, but that's always horror since the beginning of telling horror stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to steal one more question right now quickly. So Robin, I have to ask you this because Josh and we don't have bets on this. We should have made bets on this, but we didn't. Are you a big horror fan at all? And if you are or not, what horror films would be your top 3?
I'm not really a horror fan. Okay, but when I watch one, one of them that I like is the very famous one. Get Out.
Get Out. Get Out. Yes, Get Out is great.
Yeah, that's one that I can think of. I don't watch all those the classic horror stuff. Yeah.
We knew it. See.
Yeah. I think in that though, to just kind of guess, I think because Robin might not be like a super fan who's reading horror comics all day or watching horror movies like I am, he really brought a different perspective to it. And what I really compliment about Robin's art, besides for it like just the skill of it, is that there's parts where it's very real world. So it's not being drawn like a Tales from the Crypt. It's not being drawn like an Army of Darkness, that kind of style. So I think that makes it scarier. It feels real. It feels like if we would take out the Damn Cursed Children and make it into like an LA riot or something like that, it would kind of feel the same with these characters. You could take these characters and say they are in the midst of an actual historical war or an actual historical riot that happened in a city. And you could kind of have the same touchstone. So I think that's what really made it interesting, is to have a little bit of an outside, slightly less nerd brain looking at it than Howard and I.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, there are a lot of stories that are more tinged to, the supernatural. So, it was quite refreshing to see something like, as you said, more real world.
Yeah, that's one of the things when we were getting the pages in, like the first 10, I was looking at them too, and I was like, I don't think he's a horror fan. This why these look fantastic, because we wrote some scenes. I'm like, this can be very tropey if it's done wrong, but it should work if it's treated differently. And Robin was never tropey. I was like, there's no tropes here. This is really weird. Is he like going out of his way to do this, or is it just because he's not like a he doesn't look really cool, really has a pulse on the horror stuff, which is better, because it's sort of that if you get somebody who's not into something to do a genre they're not a big fan of, they don't fall into those tropes, because you automatically do. If I say superhero, it was like, oh, I'm going to do this and this. Like, you already have ideas of what you want to do from that alone, which ruins it quickly enough. So for him to be in this perfect position where he's not, like, it was just super divinity that it happened. People who've interviewed us, like, is he a horror fan? Like, we don't think so. We never actually asked him. But we hope he's not, because that's why it's like this. So now it's confirmed. We were very happy, because we weren't sure. We couldn't confirm anything we said. So we were happy.
So Robin mentioned that he liked Get Out. What are your first memories of a horror story that you still, it retains in your mind till today? For me, it was like my grandma. She loved horror stories, the Asian ones, where we had these black and white horror TV shows, usually in Malay, and they are all about this ghoul called the Pontianak. Usually a woman died during childbirth, and and then she starts haunting people, and especially when you smell something like a frangipani scent, and somebody's calling you from behind, don't turn back. So anyway, I was just like maybe 9 or 10, and then she always watches these TV shows at night, like, they're all, we had a 2-story house. So when you climb up the stairs, it was already dark, and then there's TV flickering screen, right, with like screams and
oh my god, that's perfect.
I know, and I was a kid, right? I'm trying to get to my bedroom. And then she was like, oh god, that was my first memory. Until now, I will always remember how scared I was about Pontianak stories.
That's lovely.
Asian horror does not mess around. Asian horror is like, man, is the comics. What's the comic artist who it's always like somebody turns into a snail and it's like the most terrifying thing ever? Do you know that one?
No, I just brain farted it because he was actually at TCAF too.
Was he? God. Oh my! I'm sorry, I can't think of it. But one of the big plot points is it's very like transformation, the horror of transformation. And there's one where that's the basic story: is someone turns into a snail, and and it is the scariest thing you've ever read in a comic book. Oh my god! And all the movies, even like the big famous ones, like The Ring and The Grudge, kind of those cornerstones. But we in Montreal, not far from Ottawa, there's a Fantasia Film Festival. It's called, and they screen a lot of that kind of stuff. So over the years, I've gotten to see a lot of anthologies and horror movies, and they're always the most terrifying. Is that Asian subgenre for sure? So I imagine you being scarred for life as a kid thanks to your grandma.
You're sleeping with her grandma by yourself tonight. No. She creeps the crap out of me.
That was my experience. What was your first memory, of a horror movie or horror story that was told to you or something like this that stuck?
I have two, because I don't remember the time in my personal history, but Poltergeist was definitely one of them because it was on TV back when TV was really popular with cable. I remember I was watching it by myself for some reason, and then the famous infamous scene with the kid in the TV, because you're a kid watching TV. I remember just running into my parents' room, and I remember they were sleeping, and they're like, "Why are you freaking out? What's wrong with you?" And I told them about what I was watching. It's like, "Why would you be watching that?" Like, yeah, I shouldn't be watching TV at this hour, but you're an Asian kid, so no one cares. The other one was crap. I think it was my cousins are older, so I was sleeping over at their house, and I don't know how, but they borrowed their parents' credit card to rent movies from the machine. Yeah, I know. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into criminal details, but so they would borrow movies by getting it into the machine and they come out. And I think it was Crypt Keeper stuff. And it's like, you're going to enjoy it. So they always watch it at night when you're about to sleep. It's like, let's watch TV. And then they would pop in the VHS in there and you're like watching the shit. And I was like freaking out. I think the TV was in the bedroom, so I couldn't run away. And it would just basically do it to freak me out. And it did freak me out. And I was like, every time I would go there to have fun, I couldn't sleep because I was so scared. So in the morning, I was like Bart Simpson, you couldn't sleep with the clown. That episode when he thought the clown bed would eat him. I was that kid at her house with the eyes wide open. I couldn't sleep. And my uncle and aunt's like, "What's wrong with you? Did you sleep well?" So those two memories still stick with me today. I don't remember how old I was though, to be honest, but I remember it clear as day, like that feeling in those moments where I had that feeling that something's going to get me, and I was scared and petrified.
What about you, Josh?
It's funny to think of this now because it's a very different world. But when I was a little kid, Michael Jackson was the biggest star on the planet, and the 20-minute long extended Thriller premiered on TV.
Oh yes.
And so I saw that when I was like a kid. Like I swear I must have been 4 or 5 years old. But I have that strong memory of, even though it's a extended music video, it has all these tropes of like a werewolf and zombies and kind of getting stuck in a haunted house and the 1950s kind of feel. Vincent Price doing the narration. So I really remember that as a cornerstone of being a little kid, and that fear/fascination with the horror genre. And that kind of covered all these bases. And I'm sure that led me to going, later in life, John Landis, he directed American Werewolf in London. And Vincent Price, he's in all these classic horror movies. And here's all these zombie movies. So it's strange, but I think Thriller has a real big touchstone for my horror fandom.
What about you, Robin? Any scary stories?
Yeah, I can't. But I remember that every time I watch a horror movie, then at the night time I will not able to fall asleep. But in details, I can't really tell. But I'm also amazed with the Hong Kong movie of vampire. The jumping kind. Then with pepper. Yes, yeah. I remember with my brothers and I. We will always love this Jiangshi movie, this vampire movie, because because like I mentioned, I'm not really a horror fan, but because this vampire, they know kung fu, they fight. Sometimes they can fight, and then
the show mostly got humor. There's humor involved in it. It's quite funny.
Yeah, and then the Sifu, they will have to defeat the Jiangshi, then they have to fight too. Then it's more like a kung fu movie now.
Yeah. Oh, I love watching those growing up. Those are great though.
Yeah. We did.
Now that you mentioned, I forgot about Jiangsu.
Oh my god, those are that's
I watched those type of Chinese vampire. Hop, hop, hop.
Yeah, because it's actually because the reason why it's people who don't have a pulse on the culture, it's because it's a very cultural thing. So if you don't have a pulse on it, it's kind of a silly thing. It's just bouncing around, and you can sort of punch it. It's like actually a physical thing you can beat and stuff. But when you think of the culture of it, it's creepy because it's necromancy. They were resurrected. It wasn't like they just came out on their own. Somebody controls them, who obviously can be vindictive too.
Why are they hopping? I've never seen the hopping martial arts vampires.
They hop.
They can't walk. Yeah, they can't walk. They hop, but they only hop when they die with
And
freeze.
usually they're defeated or having put by a spell because there is a medium who can put spells, and then it's a talisman and a yellow piece of paper, and they stick it there.
Yeah, like the thing on top of my.
I think I've seen that. Yeah, I gotta watch this. I want to watch these now.
If you want to.
It says it's usually in the form of a kung fu movie as well, with some humor involved. It's
if you want to look at
scary as well sometimes.
If you want to watch a modern day version of it that is not it doesn't deal with the humor stuff, you look at it's actually in Cantonese it's Gurung Si, but that doesn't really help you. I'm trying to think of the English title. Rigor Mortis. If you look up Rigor Mortis,
okay.
It does a really good take on it, like a serious take on it, where it creeped me out because I was like waiting for the humor to kick in, and it never kicked in. I was like, okay, this is actually, and then they go into the other stuff too of the a lot of people, not a lot of people. There are some people who keep the remains of children, like the cremation, and they feed them stuff, like basically no real food, like they feed them like incense and stuff like that to ask them for help for things. So there's spirits living in your house with little children that don't belong to you, by the way. You just have them.
Wait, they're not even like your nieces and nephews?
No, you don't do that because
this is amazing. I love all of it.
You're using them, right?
Christian law as well. They actually dig out like corpses of tiny babies or fetuses, and then they call them toyo. And when you own one, you can ask wishes from them, and sometimes it can be malevolent. So.
That's amazing. Do you buy them at like flea markets? Like, where do you buy the ghost children?
What they call bomos or witch doctors, or certain people who have inroads into these things.
Yeah, it's a whole world that I was planning to write, but then when I started doing the research, I kind of like, if I write this, would they come after me? And I started doing that, like this is too close to home, maybe not. But I still have my notes for it. And funny enough, this is like one really weird, not really horror connection to Singapore. I was staying at a hostel with my family. Swear to God, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I went to the kitchen to get some water for my family. And there was a long table there for the kitchen. All around the long table, I kid you, they're all topless guys. All topless guys sitting there having a meeting. I walked in. I was like with this picture going, I'm still going to get the water, but I'm leaving this door open now. And then I hear them talk, and they were all Taoist priests. They're all there for a celebration at one of the temples. I was like, this is the most bizarre conversation of topless Taoist priests right now. And I'm like taking the water. But the day after, so the morning I met one of them, which is I guess I don't know what the levels and what their names, but the senior one. And I was talking to him, and he apologized for being topless when I came in. I'm like, it's fine, it's hot, I get it, it's Singapore, it's fine. And then I asked him, what he did, and he was like, I'm Taoist priest. So I'm like I know that's the real stuff, but you guys also deal with like necromancy stuff, because as a kid you watch it. Like I always wanted to ask that question, and I feels bad to asking like a priest, do you do exorcisms? But that's what I did. And he's like, yes, we do some of that stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna get your Facebook now. So if I ever have to do this story, I have someone in Singapore who can ask real questions too, which is terrible, right? Of all the things to ask, but I think because he was so guilty of me coming into their topless meetings that he would be willing to answer those questions. But I'm so happy I got that connection so that I can actually dig in real information. So one day I might do it, but it creeps me. It creeped the hell out of me when I think about it. When I started writing that stuff, because it's so close to home, and you grow up with that stuff. But Josh, dive into it. It is a rabbit hole, man. Like for film.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, you own a theater, you can do a whole like Halloween month of that crap. It's amazing.
Oh
stuff.
God, yeah.
My question is like, when you're writing horror stories, right? There's such a wide range of frightening stuff that happens. Is there a line that you will not cross?
Evidently not, because we killed a lot of kids in this comic book. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we crossed a lot of lines. I thought we drew some lines and then we erased them, and then after a while we just gave up. on saying what won't we do because. And then this goes with Robin, right? Because I remember writing some scenes where I'm like, okay, some kids are getting hit by the car, and maybe one will get run over, and then it's like, oh, there's a whole gaggle of children getting run over by the car. I guess it's okay. It looks great and everything, but it's sort of like one of the things that I always wondered when we started this was when I gave, I think, the first issue script to Robin. I was like, I remember Robin replying the email. So this is not a superhero story. I'm like, no, it's not. But are you okay to draw this? Because I don't know how it works in Singapore. Like I know the food culture. I have friends there, but I don't know the ins and out of some stuff like that. If it's okay to deal with that, because here obviously it's fine, North America. He's like, it's fine. I'm like, okay, because this is just issue 1, and it just gets a lot worse as we go further. Just so you know that it's going to get more gruesome and violent, and if you're okay with that, then we'll do this. He's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm like, okay. And then when he started getting pages in and then taking what we wrote, it's like, I can make this better, and clocked it all the way to 11. Like we might have it at 9, but he's like, I'll just do this 11. Fine.
Robin, I have to say your artwork really made it stand out a lot. Yeah, and your line work is just like amazing. And I know so many local artists, right? And then I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to Robin for this comic, right? For this live stream. And then many of them was like, who's Robin? I said, you go Facebook him and Google and find out more about him. Then he was like, oh man, his line work is really good. I said, yeah, right. How come you don't know about him? Oh, you're keeping too low profile, Robin. Your artwork is really good.
Yeah, one of my heroes is a Ninja Turtle artist named Jim Lawson, and his big claim to fame is that he's worked for Mirage Comics, which doesn't really exist anymore, but he worked for Mirage Comics from the beginning to the end, and he has drawn more Ninja Turtles than anybody, mostly in black and white. And he was nice enough to give us a blurb for the back of the book, and he basically said, like, when he got the book, he was like, another zombie book, and you could read the quote on the book, but he was so blown away by Robin's art. And this is somebody who was drawing Ninja Turtles in black and white professionally for 2 decades. So to have somebody like that compliment someone's work, it meant a lot to me, but I also thought it's deserved because just you see this book and it's so great. And we've got quotes from like Steve Niles and Jimmy Palmiotti, like some big shot guys. And a lot, they all, that's the thing is like, as the writers, we do a lot of hard work, but we're really riding the coattails and hoping we have a really good artist drawing that book because that's what catches everyone's eyes first. And Robin did such a good job. I was so thrilled the first time Howard sent over some rough sketches, and I was just like, "Oh wow, we've got a comic book. We're going to do this."
You were saying that you had a lot of difficulties getting this book pitched to some of the publishers because of how gory it could be and subject matter. So how did it land on Source Point? I mean, were they brave about it or really open?
No, I wasn't being brave. I was actually kind of annoyed actually when it happened. I was at Fan Expo in Toronto, which is it's called Fan Expo Canada, official name in Toronto, which is I believe the second biggest comic book convention in North America. Don't quote me. I know that one.
Yeah.
So I was there. It was because it's a 4-day convention. So I was there the Thursday night. So I was, after you pack up and stuff and you say hi to everybody again at the bar / restaurant to get a seat and an order. I was around 10 o'clock at night or so. And I was like dead tired because I was planning to go home. I'm going to eat dinner first and then say bye and go home. By that time, it'll be like 1. But then, honestly, right before I bit into my burger, a friend tapped me on the shoulders, like, "You gotta meet Travis." I'm like, now? Like, I'm like literally holding my dinner in my hands, about to eat, like right right now, like right this very second. Yeah, I'm like, fine. And I literally put my burger down, and I was like, I'm sitting with a table with strangers. Hopefully, no one eats my food or spits in it. But whatever, I'm too tired to care. And I was like, fine, we'll meet Travis. Like, I was like really at that level where like I didn't care. And it's like, this is Travis. This is Howard. I'm like, he does Iron Man and whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. So what do you do? It's like, I'm the editor-in-chief of Source Point Press. I'm like, oh, oh, that's cool. What do you guys do? Like, I had no idea. Like, I'm very honest. If I don't know what you guys do, I ask because that's how I learn, right? And he was like, kind of like, did you not like? Why didn't you just try to lie? And because you're not. Are you trying to pitch a book? Because isn't this why? Or my friend is Keith Groucho. But isn't this why Keith brought you over to pitch me a book? I can see it in his eyes, right? I'm like, in my head was like burger. I just wanted to eat. I didn't want to pitch. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I want to eat first, get my protein in, and start talking. So it's like, and he gave me like a spiel of what they did. And then I'm like, oh, so you guys like do like really indie books, just black and white stuff? Like, oh no, we do color and stuff. And then he started talking about how they started in Michigan, Detroit, which is where they are, and how they are growing as a company. And then he went on to talk, and I asked him like, what are you guys planning to do in the next 5 years? Just be a comic book publisher? Because that didn't work out for a lot of publishers. And I wasn't even pitching. I was just curious about, because he was willing to share this information. So by that point, he could have figured out that I was going to pitch him because I was asking those questions. And he asked me what I did for a living beyond comics, what I thought about the comic book industry, which I answered. And I answered, and I talked about, it would be about printing. Like, this is really weird, but still related comic books about the production value, production side of things. Which, if you printed all your stuff in Asia and ship it back, it's still definitely way cheaper than printing it locally in North America a lot of times. And he talked about shipping and stuff, and about his background with his dad about doing logistics and stuff. So I'm like, I really like you. You have a really good head on your shoulders. You actually know what you're doing business-wise. So that's really cool. I actually would like to talk to you about, working together. So you're not just, I want to make books because it's cool. You actually want to make money, which is kind of nice when you're in comic books. Then he asked that question. So, what are you working on? My dinner, which is not being eaten. But I do have a book that no one wants, and to chicken shit to print. If you want to hear about it, it's like, sure. So I didn't really pitch him like a normal pitch. I actually told him all the reasons why all these publishers didn't want to take it. And I had some of the art on my phone, on my Dropbox. So I'm like, this tiny ass phone. So he was like looking at, pages on this thing. And then he's like looking at them. He's like, this is pretty good. It's like expanding panels and stuff. And then he's like, so what's this about? And I gave him this is why people don't want it, because we kill like a whole population of children, like a lot, in the most horrific way possible. If you think, hitting them with a hammer is bad, no, that would be like an issue 1 kind of thing. We're like going to go way beyond that by issue 5. And he paused. I was like literally waiting for him to say the same line that I get from everybody else. Like, this is amazing, but we can't do this. He just looked at me. He's like, Howard? I'm like, yeah, fuck it. We'll do it. I'm like, did you just say that you want to publish this? Because I still need to eat dinner. Because I don't know if I heard that correctly. I don't want to misquote you. He's like, oh, no, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay. I'm not really in the frame of mind to talk about this. It's like, see me at my booth tomorrow morning when you're, when you have a good night's sleep and stuff, which I did. And I actually did not go directly to the booth. I watched them work the floor, and they worked hard selling everybody's books, even the people who weren't there. And so I'm like, okay, so there's a company who actually cares about their creators and getting their books out there and stopping people to introduce them to their product. So when I talked to them there, he gave me the nitty gritty, the details, contract details, the whole bit. It was like one of the most professional comic book meetings I've had. And then he asked me really important questions about the comic books. Like, where do you see this going? Why are you doing this? Like, why is it so violent? Why does it have to be like, children? Why does it be violent? And I explain the story of me and Josh, but also transcends that to the meanings and themes and motifs and metaphors of things that we're doing. It's like, great. So you understand horror. Now I really want to sign you. I'm like, this is crazy. You actually you get it, right? So that's what ended up happening. And then he sent me the contract literally during the convention, which no one does. He sent a contract during the convention for me to look over, which I didn't do because I was at the convention too. So, but I was like, I remember emailing Josh and Rob. I was like, I think we have a publisher now for this. Are you guys still in? Because it's been a decade or so, I think. So if you guys are not cool with it, that's all right. But somebody's interested now. So I was like kind of afraid that Josh and Robin were going to say, it's been a decade. I don't want to touch this anymore. I'm done with it. And I was like ready for them to say that. I'm like, well, I tried. I didn't like purposely go pitch it. It just so happened to be like, it just, fate had it that, he was at the same, party that I was, and was willing to talk to somebody he'd never met, so doesn't even know. So it was really crazy how that came to be. And, we're so happy with them personally, because every time we send them pages, especially from Robin, and then you could, well, now you've seen it, so you see how the impact of the pages. I'm like, they're going to say no to this. They're going to tell us to cut this out. They're going to say less children underneath the car. In the back of my head, I was waiting for the shoe to drop, and they never dropped. It's like, do what you want to do. This is great. You can go crazier. I'm like,
Wow.
oh, it is. It is. I'm pretty sure it's going to be. But they never said no to anything. So I was very happy about that. They were super supportive with Robin's art. So, they never changed a word. So I'm like, that's crazy. And like, it was a really good publisher where they like trust, the creative team to do their thing and then help them get their book out, on time. Like we never, what? None of our issues were late. All the stuff hit the shops on time. So it's like, it's a perfect marriage of, creativity and the production side of things. So I'm very happy with them.
Yeah, I'm glad it's out though. I don't know if people here can get it, but maybe I kind of saw it in the pull list in one of the comic book stores, but I'm not sure whether they actually, it was like Absolute Comics, I think. But I don't know whether they actually bring it in.
Well, I hope so. I mean, you only have a local artist who drew it all.
It's like, it's not in my favorite comic book store, which is GND, I don't think, because they are more family driven. And then now we have web, comics, digital. So kind of saw your the Global Comics link, which is how I got to read the whole entire thing in the first place. And therefore, later on, I will share with the people watching it later, and now where they can get it, because that's probably one of the best places.
There's also bookstores. We're actually our trade paperback. Besides comic book shops around the planet, it's also bookstores. And I know I contacted
Kinokuniya Singapore.
Yes, Kinokuniya has confirmed that they ordered it before I reached out to them. He's like, we already ordered it. I'm like,
nice.
Or order more then. I don't want to say like thanks. Like my job is already done, so this is great.
That's good.
I especially told them that Robin was is from in Singapore, so they're like, really? I'm like, so you should definitely order more.
Always a good supporter of local creators and Southeast Asian creators as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I hope so. I'm happy to hear that, because I want Robin to be known, especially in his own hometown.
For the pandemic, right? I'm sure there will be some they usually have like once a month or twice a month some spotlight with creators and authors. So it's too bad that right now it's not possible at the moment, I think.
Well, things are delayed. It'll happen. I mean, even our conventions in Ontario, like in Canada, are all canceled. So, from last year and this year. So, they're saying fall/winter, and I'm like, I said sure. I'll maybe show up. I don't know yet, because if our book comes true and things go crazy, then no.
I don't know. Like Howard sent over an invite for October, and just to be fully honest, I was like, I don't know if I want to go to a giant convention. Little things like 50 people in a movie theater or a few people in a restaurant, that kind of thing.
It's controllable in a way.
Yeah, but I don't know. Comic-Cons. That was a joke before, that if you go to a Comic-Con, you're going to get con sick, you know? And so now I find it interesting, the world where, like taking photos with celebrities, where the photo just like every 60 seconds, somebody's standing beside Patrick Stewart or Nathan Fillion. I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. Like, or like shaking hands with people, all this kind of stuff is like, I met Bruce Campbell at Comic-Con years ago, just very quick. He signed his book, shook his hand. I said I loved him. That was it. But I hope that fans in the future realize that if your favorite nerd celebrity doesn't shake your hand, it's because of all this, like
they don't want to get it just, on a off chance, man. But it's going to be a different convention when we get back to convention. It's going to sound weird. It's going to be kind of those kind of, it's going to be one of those dream conventions for some people where like, I don't have to touch people. It's the weird. I know it sounds weird. It sounds weird, but have you ever been at a convention where it's like neck to neck people, where it's like there's no space?
There's talk about the Singapore Comic Con. There's talk about it, like it's gonna get back on this year.
Oh,
and
wow!
Some people who usually booth during the convention, and they got some emails about their Artist Alley booths. Apparently, there's going to be some plexiglass glass separating them from. And then some of them's like, I don't know, yeah, it's safety, but still, it takes away a lot of like interaction.
The interaction. Yeah, well, I foresee that. I mean, I joked with Josh, like there's going to be like a bunch of bank tellers all around the convention floor. The little slip for the book, and I'm going to have a little thing for me to talk out of to talk to you. But that's what's going to happen.
Well, like right across the street from the Mayfair is this great little arcade called House of Targ, and it's a basement arcade and has a little bar. So they just reopened on Friday again. They had a patio, so they were able to sell drinks outside and do that sort of thing. But they reopened, and in between all of the arcade and pinball games is plexiglass. And it's so weird to look at because, 2 years ago, that seems like science fiction. And I don't know if that plexiglass is ever coming back down. So I think that's just how this arcade looks now. And in our candy bar at the Mayfair, same thing. We have plexiglass and then like a little hole at the bottom to put the popcorn through. And our friend that we mentioned, Tom Fowler, he said he got an email just because people know he's an artist. He's probably on some mailing lists for some art stores and stuff like that. And they're soliciting that now of the same way that an artist might walk in with a portfolio under their arm. Yeah. You can get a fold up plexiglass that you would put on your table and put up and would have a little hole at the bottom that you could pass the comic back and forth. But that's a thing. Like I guarantee you will see that. Yeah. So
oh my God, we're gonna be in hazmat suits walking around the con floor.
Yeah.
They always cosplaying Breaking Bad. That's what's gonna happen.
And like you see a lineup outside of a convention like New York or Toronto or San Diego, and it's 4 blocks long of people back to back. Yeah. So if you're sticking 6 feet in between all those people, it's gonna go for a mile. Like
it's like in the US, they don't really care that much anymore because they're saying that most of their people are vaccinated, which is another thing that makes me leery.
Yeah.
I know some people who actually went to conventions and were guests, and I was like, "All the power to you." Hoping it's okay in a week or two with you, and everybody else who showed up. My God. But
this is the real life horror we are in. We don't know
it is. I mean, the funny thing is when we wrote all this, it was like way before all this happened.
Yeah.
And we talked about the scenario of how people would react. Well, honestly, when I was doing this with Josh, I was like, so a person wouldn't be like very calm and collected and go, this is the plan. We're going to get, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to have an expert who's going to be like, I can solve this within the 5 issues. We're going to solve this and fix it. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is people are going to freak crap out because that would freak me out. And I wouldn't know what to do besides protect myself and get the hell out of Dodge. That's it. So that's how we approached it. But then, having seen how people reacted to a real outbreak, we realized that we forgot we should have added toilet paper and stuff to our story, apparently. So it's sort of like when people are like, did you write this during the pandemic? No, because we don't have people, just killing each other for toilet paper, for one. And, sanitation wipes.
It was like an international, it's become a trope.
Yeah, well, it's like toilet paper and it's in sanitation wipes, right? I was like, Josh, we missed out on that. We goofed. I don't know how we missed toilet paper. So when people ask us, like, did you do this during the pandemic? No.
Well, and it's like truth stranger than fiction, because if we would have added like a Donald Trump saying that there's no monster outbreak, everything's fine, like it would have seemed so strange. But I've said that like in 20 years, if somebody randomly picks an issue out of a bin at a comic store, they will assume we wrote this in 2021, but that is just it. You couldn't have predicted that this book, that issue 1 came out during the heat of the pandemic, and I almost thought that might hinder us because people would be like, I don't want to read about this. I want to go read a happy Spider-Man story or something.
Yeah.
But that is like, the internet at its worst is the worst, but the internet at its best, and like you're asking about doing stuff during these times, is we've had such nice response from readers and critics and people on doing podcasts and stuff. So that's something that we wouldn't have had a few years back. Everyone seems to have adapted to this world to help tell their story and spread the word pretty quickly for music, for movies, for books and stuff like that. So I'm very curious where the next 3, 6, 9 months go, because I think this will continue. Like it's such an easy way to communicate and do that kind of stuff. So yeah, very curious to see what making comics and promoting comics looks like, say, a year from now.
The good thing from the pandemic for me personally was actually this Zoom thing or StreamYard, because I got to connect with so many other people that I don't usually connect with, because either somebody I know say that, oh, hey, this person will be interested, and then I started getting more contacts, and some are like acquaintances, becomes like, we kind of keep track with each other. I think it's something very unique because it is an offshoot from the pandemic. It's not something that I would have done if the pandemic didn't happen. And I was, I kind of like, I feel warm-hearted because of that, because there are people, nice people that I got to know since last year, more than I usually would in 5 years or something.
I'm hoping the future is we've met so many nice folks, and including our publisher. Like I've never met our publishers in real life, and I look forward to going to Detroit. We've unofficially got an invite to go to Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii to go to a comic convention. So all this kind of stuff, like we will in the future, Howard and I and Robin will meet people that we have talked with over this.
Through Plastic Class.
It'll be like it'll be like meeting old friends all of a sudden, which is great. So
yeah, it's going to be a different kind of, as I said, it's going to be a different kind of convention because people have known each other or met each other like this for who knows how long. So but when you see each other, it's it's going to be different because it's sort of like, hey, it's like how I met Travis. That would probably that was the last convention that happened for me, at least. So that was like the last time I get to like, hey, come meet this person, and then send us close to them, and then and have a conversation. So it's going to be like this now, which might have benefits for like especially the comic book industry, where people can meet editors and publishers. Convention and editor, you can I only have 5-minute slots for the next 2 hours. Imagine how many people that person could meet and potential stories that could be published because of that, versus, okay, now I'm going to be at this bar. If people come up to me and have a good pitch and they have the courage to do it, then I might consider it. That might be 3 people out of, the whole time period of 4 days. So this might actually encourage more creativity to be more courageous and present themselves to make it happen. That's to me, that's the positive side to this.
And also for me, as a non-creator, more like a fan or a blogger, if you don't attend a Comic-Con in real life, you kind of like just feeding off what's happening in real time, but it's not your time zone. So I found out that last year, due to the pandemic, and my Comic-Con went online, at least we are able to see what's happening, even though it's not during the time that's happening live, because there were panels being kept on YouTube, and you could just keep in touch and what's going on, rather than I don't know because I'm missing out, that kind of thing. And also like DC fandom, they went for like 24 hours, and so like the briefing rotation, because I always felt that our region is being missed out, because maybe it's a very small population of fans in consuming Western style comics or pop culture. And so it was really nice to feel included last year in all these big events that were happening, and I feel as if like I wasn't alone in this corner of the earth and everyone's enjoying themselves.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, for the if they're the fans of our book, or Josh and the one of mine, or 2, maybe 2 I have now. Singapore is one of those places on the planet, when things get to the point where you can't travel, is a place to visit repeatedly, because they have such a good pulse on so many things. Food culture is off the hook, by the way, but geek culture is crazy there. Case in point, for those who don't know, they have a Disney office there for a reason. And they have a strong connection with the North American comic books, more so than a lot of places in Asia. And I travel around Asia a lot. And people's like, oh, Hong Kong is going to be a place for, like, there's 2 shops in Hong Kong that sell North American comic books, and physically are side by side each other. They're friends, the 2 owners. I didn't know them very well, but for content wise, for geek contact wise, and for actual real geeks, I think Singapore is one of the biggest ones in Asia. Not, there's a lot of great pockets here and there, but definitely one of the biggest ones, because I know them as friends who work in the creative industry, and they buy way more crap than, well, okay, I buy a lot of stuff, but they buy a reasonable amount of stuff too, that I'm like, you're into this, you're into that, because I wouldn't associate, because you can see I have a lot of Asian stuff here, but when I see a lot of North American stuff, I'm like, you guys watch that? It's like, oh, I watched it growing up. I'm like, and like I wouldn't think that, because I was born and raised in Toronto. So you guys have a really good pulse of a mixture of cultures, because
there's a mix. Actually, when you talk about numbers, the manga and manga readers are actually far more than English Western media. So the manga market is really huge. Talking about English-wise, in terms of audience, I think Philippines beats us outright. But because we are seen to be as a hub, like a safe hub, business-wise as well as tourist-wise, so we get all these things, mingling around here. And for Comic Cons, like, people like to come here because it's safe, and spending power. I would think the Indonesians have got us beat too.
Well, you get
spend so much on the toys.
Spending power is a little bit different. That's a different issue for geekness. You guys are strong. I personally. I mean, yes, the Philippines is great too. Oh, shout out to Mark Torres for introducing us. By the way, Mark Torres is a great, fantastic artist. I forgot your book title. I'm such an ass. Cold Spots was one of his books. Oh my god, I'm a horrible. I forgot what he's doing right now. But thank you, Mark. I've known Mark for for more than 20 years now. So I mean, the thing is, there's geekdom in Asia, and people don't realize that, especially when you're a geek yourself and you travel and you don't realize it. But then you miss out, because I tell people, like, when you're in this part of the world, there's a convention happening. So if you just let them know, they'll probably just throw you a table, and then you can get to, have fun and meet fans that you've never known you existed and stuff. So,
and if you're lucky in Singapore, who knows, they offer you a room.
Well, me and Josh are, looking at 2023, possibly. And we're small and tiny. We don't need a huge, penthouse, but we wouldn't say no to it. Maybe at MBS, possibly. Josh, you don't know what MBS? Oh wait, what? Marina Bay Sands. I keep saying MBS and I forget the actual name.
Marina Bay.
It's where the infinity pool's on top of the top floor, where they use it for every sci-fi film.
Oh yeah,
ever. From
I think I just saw that in something recently. Yeah, I've seen that before.
It's a nice, quaint building that to stay in. If they say that's where you're staying, so just say yes, and I'll stick myself in. But because why not? But it's Singapore is an amazing place. I mean, I love it. Yes, it's safe and it's clean and all that, but the people are very cool.
Thank you.
Because it's crazy. It's you guys are trilingual, for Christ's sake. And I remember the first time I did not realize that. I was speaking English to my kids, and my wife, and then, like any stupid Asian family on earth, like, you use your second language to talk about stuff, like making a deal. But then, it's like we speak. I speak Cantonese. They also speak my kids and my wife can speak Cantonese as well as Mandarin and some whatever's. Then the person we're talking supposedly behind. This is a very Asian thing. It's stupid. We just do it, but they hear it and they respond back to you in Cantonese. Dude's like, oh wait, you actually heard every single word we just said because we're trilingual. And it kind of like opened my kids' eyes too, because it's like, he's not Asian. I'm like, he's Asian. He's just Indian. I didn't think he would speak Cantonese, but here we are. So it was really cool. It's like okay, this actually changes my travel experience, because I can speak English to everyone and get the food and stuff I want and not have to use Google Translate. Great. You know, it's enough for me. Like for that was really cool because I can only speak Cantonese to a certain level. I'm not like totally super fluent and stuff. So it was really eye opening that people can speak Malay and a person will respond in Mandarin, but you understand each other. I was like, this is nuts. Why won't you speak the same like language? But here we are. It's people speaking different language, but they're communicating, right? So it's like this is like the future right here. It's like Star Trek happening right here. So I always found that amazing, and I love that. I actually love that. And I think that's why, you know, companies love you guys like Disney and Marvel, because once you hit Singapore, it goes into multiple languages all at once. You don't have to worry, you know, like it's just how it is, right? It's like everybody is connected that way, so it's really cool.
Also, business-wise, logistics here is so, you know, it's easy and organized. You get things disseminated really quickly.
Yeah, you guys don't joke around. You guys are quick on the dime. Like I know people who do toys and stuff, and it's sort of like someone. Like I remember visiting somebody. Or I think you know him too, Jeffrey Coe.
Jeffrey, yeah.
I remember seeing it's like a production, like a sketch of something. I'm like, how long is that going to take to be made? It's like, oh, we sketched it today. It's going to be made tomorrow. I'm like, what the hell?
Flex Lab, right?
Yeah, Flex Lab, like tomorrow, like from a sketch. That's all right. But I was like, Jesus, you know, in North America, that would take, you know, months. But you're doing it the next day. It's like, oh yeah, get the mold done, and then, you know, just do it ourselves here in Singapore. I'm like, wow. This is like, you know, like it's a geek dream. Like I draw it, make it, and within the week, it's like that. I can't even, like, my brain was like, how? That's like in my brain, it's like that's about, you know, 3 or 4 months right there for, you know, just pre-production, production, and meetings. Like no, we just, you know, talk and get it done, and people know that time is money, so we try to get, you know, make the productions, you know, pre-production side as quickly as possible, so we get to focus on marketing and selling. Yeah, what the hell? So, you know, it's just super quick. I love that.
Robin, have you actually attended the local convention?
Yeah, I attended. Yeah, once only.
Once.
Yeah.
So you haven't booth there before, like in an artist booth?
I attend as a guest.
Guest.
I
don't have a booth.
He should get one. You guys should get Robin a booth so you can
sign
and stuff and do sketches, man.
On the table, right?
I'm saying that right now. You guys over there should get him up. Actually, I do have a question for Robin. And this is actually from Josh and myself. Is we assume you read comic books. I can see them in your back shelf there. What kind of comic books do you read? Like, what's your like? I don't say go to, but what do you mainly read? Because some people like are very superhero tilted. Some are more like independent stuff, like, you know, like Umbrella Academy, weird, quirky stuff, and what have you. We talked about it because looking at your art, we were trying to guess what kind of a picture you are. So,
I read mostly independent. I've stopped reading Marvel stuff and DC stuff. Yeah, mostly independent.
Wow, he's a shelf on top of his career.
Yeah, I have a shelf on top of me.
Is it fantasy or is it like adventures?
No, I read a lot of stuff. Crime.
Oh, okay.
This one I like is Kill or Be Killed by Ed Brubaker.
Oh,
yeah,
Ed Brubaker, nice.
Yeah, that one I like. The very realistic style of Sean Phillips. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So you're into that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah. And I also like the Monsters. That's a bit manga style. Monsters, yeah. I also read that. And let's see. What else? Yeah, I collected Hellboy, Savage Dragon. And yeah, I read most of from Image Comic. Yeah.
Interesting.
Josh
is showing his geekness.
Oh.
That's Hellboy tattoo.
Yeah, Hellboy.
So
actually, we're past 1 hour now, but we'll hang on for about 5-10 minutes, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. What was the weirdest comment you received after your comic was published?
The weirdest one. Wow, that's a good question. I don't think there was any. I had to think about that. Josh, if you can answer that first. I'm thinking of any. I got any weird ones.
I can't think of a specific, but it really has pointed out how afraid people are of children. Like, I don't know what the official phobia is for that, but it's really come out a lot of people going, like, and especially parents. Like, there's a podcast I listen to that's just like a couple of comedians talking, and they've stumbled into this thing of once a week taking a phone call or an email from a fan telling a creepy story about their kid. And it's always kind of a similar thing of just like a kid walks into a room and asks a really weird question, or it's the kid talking to their teddy bear as an imaginary friend, and it's really creepy. And every parent I know has that story of a friend of mine I was visiting on the east coast of Canada a couple of years back, and he had a monitor so you could see the kid. And of course the monitor is in this like black and green, like Blair Witch looking kind of thing. And the kid is talking to her teddy bear, and she was, you know, whatever, 4 or 5 at the time. And in the kid's mind, I'm sure it's all fine. But when you hear it coming out of a kid's voice, it's a whispered voice going, "That's right, Teddy. We're going to get Daddy. He's not going to know we're coming for him." And I'm sure she just meant like a hug. But I said to my friend, I'm like, "I think we just witnessed your kid planning your murder with the bear." And so a lot of those kind of stories, funny stories of kids inadvertently being creepy, and you see why that kids work so well in the horror genre, I think.
Yeah, I can't. How about you, Robin? You got any weird stories at your end? Because we didn't hear any responses from, you know, if anything happened to you if I'm doing this.
No, I can't think of any.
Oh,
Did
no
any
worries.
of your friends read the comics and like said something? What did they feel about it?
Have your kids seen the comic?
Oh, good question. I like that one.
Yeah. When I'm working all day, my children will come in and see and look at it. Sometimes, most of the time, I just turn off the screen.
Yeah.
I don't want them to look at.
What are you working on? Nothing. Go away.
Yeah.
How about your wife?
Yeah.
Has your wife said? Your wife must have read it by now, at this point, I would assume.
Not yet.
Not yet. Whoa. Has she seen your art?
It.
Has she seen your
Yeah,
art?
she's seen it. She has seen it.
Did she question of how crazy and psychotic we are? Or
No.
Oh, wow, okay, that's nice.
She's fine.
Well, I actually met Robin's wife as well. She's a very nice woman and very, very positive. So I was like, oh no. every time I see these pages, I'm like, does she know she's drawing this? Because I know she probably could tell us off if she really wanted to, but here we are.
I'm sure she knows, and I think
hope
she
so.
doesn't,
I
mind
hope
it.
so. I hope so. I guess it's not really weird. I don't know if it's weird or not. But I was on one podcast where they had a contest where they asked people to send photo with hopefully photo or video proof. Why would you have photo and video proof of this? But who knows? Of your children being evil.
Ooh.
So the question, I was like, okay, but who would take pictures of their children and videos of their children being evil? But here we are. And apparently there's a lot. But one was weird. One locked their dad out in the garage.
Mhm.
I don't know how that even happens, but he had to kick the door down to get out.
Wow.
The kid was like 4 or 5, and I was like, wow, that's okay. That didn't happen to me, thank God. And then we had one that was silly and gross, which was a kid. You know, when you have kids, you know this happens. They poop. They're pooping machines. So sometimes it comes out of the diaper. So this guy had his crib against the wall. So it was, on the crib, on the wall, down the wall. But he had a photo of it. In my mind, I was like, that's gross and disgusting. I'm a dad. I get it. But why do you not like clean up your kid and decided to go get the camera? It wasn't like digital camera. It was like actually camera to take a photo of your poopy wall and your kid. And the kid, like any kid at that age, was smiling in her pooped out jammies. I was like, your wife probably wanted to murder you after that. But the fact that you took the time to find the camera, take a photo of your kid and the wall versus, cleaning it up. But my favorite one was this guy talking about his kid destroying his TV with a juice box. Like he threw the juice box against the TV and then it broke the TV, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty evil. So that was like these like stories like, this is why I love your book, because of the things that's happening to the children. I'm like, no, we're not encouraging you to do this to your children. This is, a fictitious story of children gone insane. That's where they're getting killed and hunted, not because they're just normal kids who are just, for some reason assholes like your kids. But don't do this to your children. I think that was like the weirdest thing when people said that, why they were fans of her book, that it made them feel vindicated that this can happen, that adults can do this to children. And then a lot of them for some reason gravitated to Ted kicking the kid and booting him like a football. I'm like, don't do it to your children. And I get that saying that, like, do not do this to your children. Please don't do this to your children. We are not responsible if you try to do this to them, but don't do this to your children. So that's the weirdest thing that happened with this.
That's totally off.
Yeah, well, don't kick your kids.
I've seen that the trade paperback is coming up, right?
Yes, it'll be out on July 28th at bookstores and comic book shops. But if they run out or they didn't have an order, definitely go to the bookstores and order them, because they can order them anytime. But the first wave, which should be the 28th.
And is there more coming on its way, like more issues?
More issues.
Well, it hasn't really ended.
well, the first story is done, which is the first 5 issues, which is collected in the trade paperback. Oh, it also has extra stuff. I should mention there's bonus material from Robin's production stuff, which is fantastic. If you want to pick his brain and see how his pencils looks like and his design process, it's all there. As well as a forward from Jimmy Palmiotti, which was amazing. I actually wasn't expecting that. Quick story is that I asked him for a quote. And the same day I sent him the preview page, like the preview read for it, he sent back a forward. So it's sort of like, I guess we have a forward now and a quote. So that was amazing. But is there more? Well, what I can say is that Josh and I are working on something together that will involve Robin. So that could be something that may or may not be related to what you asked. I don't know, possibly. I can also say that SourcePoint has been asking us about questions about stuff, but I can't tell you exactly of what. So there you go. As far as I can go with that.
Real life might have delayed me a bit, but I might have about 15 pages of script that I have to send over to Howard. But these COVID lockdown times are still really busy. But as soon as life calms down a bit, I'm going to jump back into the writer chair and start sending some more ideas Howard's way.
Nice. I can't wait for, a hint or teaser or some announcement about this new project. Before we wrap up, could you give your pitch for Damn Cursed Children? And then I'm going to just say goodbye to the people while you still hang on. With the audience, maybe get them interested in getting the book.
Definitely. Josh, go for it, man.
Sure. Damn Cursed Children is a 5-issue miniseries from SourcePoint Press, in which a group of strangers are forced together in a world where inexplicably every single child has turned into a small rampaging monster.
Right. And in Singapore, as you said, Kinokuniya is going to get the book in. So that's, most of our favorite bookstores is Kinokuniya. So you can get it from there. And I guess online, I found mine before it came on a physical copy from Global Comics, which is globalcomics.com. You can read, I think, 30 pages of comics free if you sign on. And then after that, that's a paid subscription, which is quite affordable, actually, for a lot of indie comics that they have online. I quite like their portal as well. So if you love reading all sorts of comics that you don't generally get in bookstores, I think that's quite a good website to start with. I'm going to just wrap it up, and you guys hang on while we say goodbye to the people later on. I'm just introducing the next Live with Red Diva. So guys, I have a normal, usual end of the month Live with Red Diva, and it's coming up on the 31st of July, Saturday. Now, usually I have it on 1 p.m., but again, I'm going to go with a different time this time around. It's going to be 11 a.m. Singapore time, and my guest is the talented Indonesian comic book artist called Ariela Kristantina. Now, she has worked with so many high-profile writers lately, including like Mark Bernardin for Adora in the Distance. They got a lot of, it's like in critical acclaim. And she's also now currently working with Scott Snyder for one of his own creator series called Chain. So she's really eager to get online to meet all of us because she knows that a lot of the people in this region is not that aware of her work yet. And her work is so amazing. I mean, if you look at her artwork, it's just like mind-blowing. So I'm so excited to have her on board as well. And also because I love having female creators on my live stream. They're so difficult to get because many of them are really shy, or they just, it's okay, you just know my work, but I don't want my face up there. So to have a female artist come on board, or a creator or writer, I really love having that. It gets me really super pumped for that session. So look out for the 31st of July, 11 a.m. Singapore time. Now, I also have a guest for the August session, but it's going to be a surprise at the moment. I'll announce that sometime late July or August, and you'll know who's going to be on board for August Live with Red Diva. And if you have any other contacts as well, like creative people who are based on this region and have work in comic books or movies or animation or are cosplayers or basically creators, you can just drop me a note and I could get in touch with them and have them on my live stream. So I'm going to get all the guys back again on screen. Thank you so much, Howard, Josh, and Robin, for this lovely chat. I know we ran across the 1 hour border, but we had so many things and fun things to talk about. It was also so nice to see Robin because, I know so many creators, but I've never seen you. I don't know about you, and it's good to know someone is like from my island, but I don't know him, and here is a new contact. So Robin, I hope we get to meet each other in real life one day. And Howard and Josh as well. Hopefully that we'll be able to meet sometime, somewhere in another convention when it's safer. And I'm so glad that we got to connect to each other. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. I've always loved Singapore, so I was very happy to be here to talk to somebody who's has a strong pulse into the geek world, like yourself. Because like everyone that I know, which is great, which is crazy. But I love it, and I know hopefully more people will consider Singapore for not just for tourism, but for hiring talent like Robin and other people. By the way, Robin, your mic's muted. People like we mentioned Ariela. I actually met her online years ago, and always wanted to work with her, and I liked her art and stuff. And I can tell that she was going to do big things when she gets out there. And my God, she's just oh yeah, she's killing it. But her art has evolved so much. So she's going to be a hoot. I never got a chance to meet her in the real because she usually goes to conventions in the States, and I usually stay Canada side for some reason. I don't know, for the last few years. So, definitely have fun with that. I look forward to her getting more well known to be on a personal note. So, but if anyone's looking for art needs or want to buy art from the book, you definitely can contact Robin because Josh and I don't own the art. Robin does, so stop asking me to buy the art.
Check out Robin's pages.
Yeah, you can go to ask Robin, who actually owns the art, to buy the art. Stop asking me the questions that I can't answer. So that's definitely something to put out there as well. But for anyone who's wondering, who's watching this when I share this, definitely tap into Red Dot Diva, talk to Tina. Anything you want to know about Singapore, she's the person to ask for sure. So again, thank you very much for having us.
Everyone, bye-bye. See you
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.